What if the engine of modern life is about to break down? For the last 50 years, we've lived through a technological miracle that gave us smartphones, the internet, and AI. But that miracle is now dying. And if we don't find a solution, the progress that defines our world will grind to a halt. Almost no one knows this, but the world's biggest companies, Apple, NVIDIA, Google, all turn to one secret lab when they run out of answers. A place hidden away in a small town where the laws of physics are being rewritten. Today, for the first time, I'm taking you inside to see the technology that will power our world 20 years from now. But first, to understand the sheer scale of the miracle we're about to lose, you have to understand Moore's law. For the last 50 years, it was the principle that allowed us to double the number of transistors on a chip roughly every 2 years. To see how colossal this was, look at NVIDIA. Their first GPU in 1999 used 220 nanometer technology. Today, their new Rubin GPU is built on a 3 nanometer process. That's like shrinking a sports stadium down to the size of a single grain of rice. In just 25 years, we shrank the transistor by more than 70 times, turning graphics cards into the engine of the entire AI revolution. For decades, engineers have carved atomic-scale machines out of sand. It should have been impossible. And yet, year after year, the chips kept getting smaller, faster and more powerful. For the next generation, we are heading into the angstrom-era, a scale where dimensions are measured in handfuls of atoms. But here is a truth no one wants to admit. This era of relentless shrinking is actually ending. Right now, we are running into the hard limits of physics. Transistors are now literally just a few atoms wide. The first problem is pure science fiction, quantum tunneling. When components get this small, the walls that are supposed to contain electrons no longer work. It's like trying to hold water in a leaky bucket. The electrons suddenly ghost right through the solid barrier, causing leaks, making chips incredibly hot, and creating errors. The second problem is that they are becoming mechanically unstable. The tiny, fin-like structures in modern transistors, called FinFETs, are becoming like skyscrapers built too tall and too thin. They can literally bend and snap under their own stress. And finally, there's heat. Squeezing more transistors together is like packing 1 billion tiny light bulbs into a sugar cube. When they all turn on at once, the heat becomes impossible to manage, threatening to melt the chip from the inside out. The industry is staring at a wall. There's no more room to shrink sideways. If we don't invent a new kind of device, not an upgrade, but a true breakthrough, the computing revolution just stops. And with it, everything that depends on progress, technological advancements, AI, space tech, and even your devices. All of it will hit a performance ceiling. Right at this moment of despair, where the world's largest tech companies like Apple, Google, NVIDIA, AMD, and even TSMC had no answers left, they turned to one place. If you trace back any advanced chip from Apple, AMD, or NVIDIA, it leads not to Silicon Valley or Taiwan, but to a small, quiet town in Belgium called Leuven, home to IMEC. This is not your typical chip maker. It's a neutral, non-profit research hub where fierce competitors like Intel, Samsung, and TSMC put their rivalries aside to work on shared challenges. Here, impossible physics problems turn into working prototypes long before they appear in an Apple or NVIDIA keynote. All modern devices run on FinFET transistors. This device was a hero, carrying us through an entire decade of technological progress. But to keep shrinking, the key fin structure had to become thinner and thinner. Imagine a playing card standing on its thin edge. It's incredibly unstable. Now imagine that card is 10 times taller. That's the problem FinFETs were facing. They were becoming too tall and thin to stand up on their own, literally snapping during manufacturing. Its time was up. The industry wasn't looking for an upgrade, but for a reinvention. After years of exploring every path they could think of, the answer turned out to be very simple, starting with a sketch on a whiteboard. They asked a deceptively simple question. If the tall, unstable structure falls over, What if we just lay it down flat? This simple idea became the second biggest turning point in microchip history, the invention of the gate-all-around transistor, or GAFET. Instead of one tall, unstable fin, engineers stacked thin horizontal nanosheets, like laying those playing cards flat and stacking them. This made them far more stable, bought us time, and will carry us for another 3 chip generations. But it wasn't the end game. We were still running out of space. So IMEC engineers asked a bold question. When cities run out of space, they don't stop building. They build skyscrapers. Why not do the same with transistors? This is the complementary FET, or CFET. It's the microchip equivalent of a duplex apartment. It stacks one transistor directly on top of another, effectively doubling the density in the same footprint. And now, I'll walk you through how this technology is being invented. I could not be more excited because right now, I'm taking you inside the fab to see one of the greatest inventions in human history. First, I suit up in a clean room bunny suit. They blast me with air to make sure I don't contaminate anything. This place is insanely delicate. It's thousands of times cleaner than an operating room because one single speck of dust can wreck $1 million experiment. Once inside, we head straight to the scanning electron microscope, or SEM. A modern transistor is about 100 times smaller than a virus, and to see it, you need electrons. Using light is impossible. Its wavelength is hundreds of nanometers wide, like trying to use a giant ocean wave to see a single grain of sand. It's useless. Inside the SEM, a thin beam of electrons scans the chip's surface, letting us zoom in hundreds of thousands of times. At first, you see simple lines, but as we increase magnification, 20,000 times, 50,000 times, 150,000 times, patterns appear. We're seeing metal contacts, tiny highways carrying signals into the transistor. Here's the brutal part. When the electron beam hits the surface, it instantly heats up. Stay on one spot for half a second too long and the beam will destroy the sample. We had to sacrifice this one just to see what was inside. An iron beam fires, and in a split second, we cut a slice 1,000 times thinner than a human hair. Only then can we see the most important part, the nanosheet channel, where the electric current actually flows. But even this supermicroscope has its limits. We can see down to 10 nanometers, but we still can't see the atoms. To go further, we have to leave the fab and do something way more extreme. This is the transmission electron microscope, or TEM. This beast can achieve magnifications of up to 50 million times. We are about to look at the CFET, the invention that took over a decade and cost the industry hundreds of millions to make real. Unlike the SEM, which only shows the surface, the TEM lets us see through the material, like an X-ray at the atomic scale. First, we have to prepare a sample called a lamella, a slice of the chip just 30 nanometers thick. Making it this thin is critical. Any thicker and electrons can't pass through, like trying to shine a flashlight through a brick wall instead of a thin sheet of paper. Finally, we are zooming into the CFET transistor. On the screen, the bright shapes are metals, the contacts and the gate. The grey regions are silicon. Running through the image like a thin thread is the nanosheet channel. This is the P-type channel at the top, and here at the bottom is the N-type channel. For the first time in history, 2 transistors stand on top of each other. And now, if we zoom in, we can see the single atoms of the channel. This channel is about 30 atoms thick. When I saw this, I just froze. This was the physical limit of reality, right in front of me. This process of using the SEM and TM isn't just for cool visuals. It's a critical step in inventing every new chip. From the moment a new transistor is imagined until it ends up in your phone, you are looking at 18 to 20 years. I was lucky enough to talk to Serge Biesemans, who led the invention of CFET technology at IMEC. "You've seen the TEM," he told me. "It looks so simple, man. It took 4 years of my life to get there." But even with a perfect design, if the tools physically can't build it, the idea dies. As Serge says, Moore's law is an equipment capability law. The undisputed queen of all chip-making equipment is the EUV scanner from ASML, which costs over $250 million. Here at the IMEC fab, they are assembling the new high-NA EUV lithography machine, the most advanced ever made. It's here that they prove you can print incredibly fine 8nm lines in a single shot. CFET buys us maybe a decade, but what comes next? The honest answer is, no one knows. The future is still unknown. That's why IMEC's work is so urgent. In the modern era, performance comes from how fast many smaller chips or chiplets talk to each other. A promising solution is to let these chiplets communicate using light instead of electricity. This is silicon photonics. It's like upgrading an old, congested city highway to a network of fiber optic light tunnels. Today, this technology connects GPU racks in data centers, but soon it will move inside the chip itself. The problem is, it consumes too much power. This is where IMEC steps in. They are experimenting with advanced optical materials like barium titanate to make it efficient enough to be used everywhere. Another radical idea is to stop using electrons and use light for computation. IMEC has multiple teams exploring different paths. One promising avenue is the world of 2D materials, exotic substances like graphene that can form perfect layers just one atom thick. Imagine a material that's like a single sheet of saran wrap, but it's a perfect crystal that conducts electricity better than anything known to man. These could allow for transistor channels that are incredibly thin and powerful, blowing past the limits of silicon. As Serge proudly says, "I'm kind of proud to say that I probably touched upon all materials in the Mendeleev table except the ones that radiate at night. Why does this one lab in Belgium hold so much influence?" The model is its superpower. By bringing everyone together, material suppliers, equipment makers, and chip manufacturers, IMEC creates an ecosystem where innovation happens exponentially. It's less like a company and more like a shared kitchen for the world's greatest chefs. Everyone brings their own ingredients and tools, but they work together to invent entirely new recipes. What makes the IMEC model work isn't just the engineers and tools, but its neutrality. It's a non-profit, so it doesn't compete with anyone. Their secret edge is that they have an entire semiconductor factory on site, built just for research. Most universities dream of one clean room. IMEC has a full production line. In 2024, that commitment was supercharged with a massive EUR2 $5 billion investment to build its nano-IC pilot line. It's a project designed to close the gap between a wild idea in the lab and a chip you can manufacture at scale, ensuring Europe stays at the heart of the semiconductor world. From the AI that will drive autonomous cars to the 6G networks of tomorrow, the foundational technologies are being incubated right here. The story of IMEC is a story of quiet, relentless progress. It's not a place for flashy product announcements. It's a place of deep science, conducted years ahead of its time. The future of computing, of AI, of everything. It's all being built here, one atom at a time. What do you think is the most important technology they're working on? Let us know down in the comments. And if you want more stories that take you inside the places building our future, make sure you subscribe. Hardly anyone knows this place exists, but now you do.